Thank you, and welcome to the Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency meeting tonight, Tuesday, August 10, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Would everyone please rise for invocation led by Reverend Vice Mayor Hay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for another day. We thank you for this opportunity to serve these, our people. We meet to serve the community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that will promote the common good. Recognize our responsibility to the past and to the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. All trusted servants, we seek blessings on our delivery and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and may we act well. We ask it all in our Savior's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Stephen B. Grant.
Present.
Vice Chair Woodrow L. Hay.
Present.
Board Member Justin Katz.
Here.
Board Member Christina Romulus. Board Member Serga.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve it as stated?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Legal, project update on the purchase and development agreement with Ocean One Boyton LLC for the Ocean One project. Is your microphone on?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. This is just an update. It had been a few months since we gave you an update on the status of the developer's commencement of construction on the public plaza. So as you recall, the deadline for compliance with that from the purchase and development agreement was March 9th, 2021. And May 9th, counsel for developer made us aware that a permit application had been filed with the city to commence construction. A staff summary of that permit is included in the agenda cover. If you have any questions about it, we can certainly answer those. I emailed counsel for the developer requesting a status update on July 21st, and I have not had a response, though Ms. Miskell is usually good about responding, but I haven't gotten a response. So I just wanted to update the board that your options are to remain, we can maintain what we're doing right now is to monitor the status of the commencement, or we can issue a formal notice of default under the terms of the agreement. If you want to just continue to monitor it in the informal way that we're doing, that is not a waiver of the default. At any point, you can direct me to issue the formal notice of default.
I would request to receive an update, but otherwise, if there's no communications, then we need to make sure that things are moving forward. And so just having a response from the city is not enough.
Perfect. Then I will make a note for the September meeting to provide an update from the developer on their status with compliance.
I would ask the board to have a consensus for that, and with that to write a letter to the developer through their legal counsel to let them know we're not issuing a default. However, we need an updated status of the permit application and how is it moving along.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Can it be conveyed in that a failure to show evidence will result in notification of default?
I can certainly provide that the board will consider issuing a notice of default at the September meeting if we don't get further communication.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
I agree.
And if I may, I have one other housekeeping item that we wanted to clarify from the July meeting. As you know, we regretfully, the board accepted the resignation of Mr. Simon at that meeting based on.
I believe the word was begrudgingly.
I did. I thought that was a legal fact, so I just added it to my summary. But there was a little confusion, and just for the board's clarification, we want to make sure that staff understood your direction to us. We understood you to have accepted begrudgingly Mr. Simon's resignation, with his last working day being August 12th, 2021, but his contract expiring on September 30th at its natural date, which means his benefits and all that would accrue through that period. And I just wanted to make sure that that was in fact on the record, your understanding, and that is all I would need from you.
Here, I would chime in that was my understanding as well, that it would continue to the end of his contract, not to today's date or
The 12th.
Thursday's date. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. That is all I have.
Moving on to item 7, information, disclosures of conflicts, contacts, and relationships for items presented to the CRA Board of Agenda. Commissioner Katz, would you like to, Board Member Katz, would you like to begin?
I spoke to Brian Fitzpatrick and Anthony Barber regarding the Magnuson House property, and that is all, I believe.
All right. Vice Chair?
I did speak with Louis and Elizabeth of Centennial. That's it.
I spoke to Centennial as well. I apologize.
Board Member Romulus?
I received a text message from Brian Fitzpatrick.
And Board Member Pensurga?
Yes, regarding item 16B, I spoke with Elizabeth and Louis Sweezy. Regarding 16D, I spoke with Kim Kelly, and I also spoke with Mr. Brian Fitzpatrick regarding the Magnuson House. And I believe that's it for me.
As for myself, I spoke with representative of Splashdown Divers. I spoke with Brian Smith. I spoke with Centennial Management. I did speak to Twee. I believe she's on the agenda as well. I spoke with Brian Fitzpatrick and Anthony Barber and Kim Kelly. And seeing no further disclosures, moving on to announcements and awards. First would be Rock the Plaza at Ocean Plaza on August 21st, 2021 from 3 to 6 p.m.
Good evening, Board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. On Saturday, August 21st, we will host our final summer event, the Rock the Plaza at Ocean Plaza, which is located at 640 East Ocean Avenue. The event will take place from 3 to 6 p.m. We will have free parking available in the parking lot directly within the plaza, as well as the parking lot behind the shopping center. And we are working to finalize usage of the parking lot on the northeast corner of Federal Highway and East Ocean Avenue as well. For the event, we will be spotlighting the businesses that operate out of the plaza and encouraging participants who come to enjoy the festivities to walk through the plaza and patronize with those businesses. We will have live music from the band Paul Anthony and the Reggae Soldiers. There will also be cocktails and special promotions from the businesses within the plaza, as well as a Boynton Beach Bucks offer for the participating restaurants. Any questions? Thank you.
Oh, and I guess my only question is do we have any more information regarding Pirate Fest that we can say? If
Well-
not, I'll accept the excitement for next month.
Well, we are very excited to announce the Pirate Fest event. We are waiting for the board to approve the budget before we proceed with actually announcing it to the public.
Okay.
But preliminarily, we have already identified the dates of October 30th and 31st for the event, and we're happy to provide more information at next month's meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Seeing any comments on information only? Seeing none, moving forward to public comments. Individual speakers will be allowed a 3-minute presentation. Please state your name and address for the record. And Kim, you can go to the other podium, yeah. You can take it off if you'd like.
Vaccinated. Hello. Oh, not that short. Hello. Hello. My name is Kim Kelly, owner and operator of Hurricane Alley, 529 East Ocean Avenue, since 1996. I started this business as a small coffee shop, cafe, with every dime I had. I even went into bankruptcy at one time, trying to keep the cafe open. As it was a long and tiring road, perseverance paid off. I was the only viable, thriving business in downtown that lasted 25 years, that faced a 3-year road closure, a 4-year development across the street with dust and pounding that ran people off, a once thriving gala that was taken away, that drove thousands of people to the area, vacant storefronts for many years, and COVID, just to name a few obstacles that I have faced. But yet I endured and became a real true success story. I'm a single woman business owner that evolved from a 26-seat cafe with 2 employees to a 150-seat thriving seafood restaurant with over 45 employees. I'm aware that you want to buy the building from the Oyers for $3.6 million, and bad timing on my part, as this leaves me with only a year left on my lease. My lease has been renewed every 5 years, and without it, my family and 45 employees and their families are without jobs. I hope that you will keep in mind that Hurricane Alley is part of the reason downtown has become attracted to developers that want to come to our once sleepy corridor. I also want to make clear that the sale of the Oyer building does not include the sale of Hurricane Alley, the business, as misstated in the Palm Beach Post. Before you agree on the sale of the 500 Oyer building, I implore you to have contingencies that will be in place that will ensure the existence, relocation, and replacement of Hurricane Alley back into downtown where we belong. I'm proposing that the sale for the $3.6 million, which you agreed on last meeting to the Oyers, include a relocation price of $300,000 for a move, or a 5-year lease of a $5,000 a month, which equals the relocation price if a buyout would occur, and also the return of Hurricane Alley when the development is completed. Another possible contingency is to the developer you award the project to ensure us funds to move and to relocate and brought back when the development is completed, which will be equivalent to my above proposal or an agreed upon price by myself and the developer. The money for the relocation is only a small portion of what it will take to rebuild and then rebuild and market our business. I will be in debt once again, just so I can be a part of the Boynton Beach community. I have worked tirelessly for 25 years to not have any debt as I'm reaching my golden years. Yes, I'm going to be 60. And to be able to leave my sons a legacy that I built. This I'm willing to put aside to be a part of a town that I love. I have been an active community member, always saying yes to the numerous fundraisers the city and the CRA have asked me to contribute throughout the years. I have hosted and paid for many block parties that brought attention to our downtown. Can I just have one more minute?
Yeah.
As well as I'm the founder and leader of the newly formed Downtown Business Coalition. I believe in Boynton. Now I need you to believe in your businesses that have helped to build, brought light to what potential Boynton has to offer. This is a small price to pay to show that you believe and support your local businesses and leaders. Your CRA mission is to build businesses up and bring people to work in Boynton. I have done that by expanding and helping the tax base by employing up to 50 people, currently at 47. Most of my employees have been with me 10 years plus, with at least 5 over 15 years. To some, they started working here when they were 16 or are still employed with me. To many, they came from Haiti, worked here or still employed, got their citizenship, bought homes in Boynton from working, and began families. All they know is Hurricane Alley. We are family. My kitchen manager, Evelyn, and her husband from Haiti spoke no English, began washing dishes. Now she's my kitchen manager. She has been here now for 17 years, as well as her husband. I witnessed 3 other children being born, and now she has found the American dream and purchased her first home. When the earthquake hit Haiti, our locals and staff raised over $5,000 to help their families. For this iconic restaurant going on 26 years in business to be kicked to the curb, and it will happen if protocols and deals are not in place, will just not be a shame, but a real travesty and a possible uproar from this community. Many of our customers got proposed to at Hurricane Alley, had their last meal with their loved ones, return each year to celebrate a special day, and some have even gotten married or held their loved ones' funerals here. It is where my mother of 91 years worked for 20 years until her passing in 2019. These memories cannot ever leave our minds, but please allow us to continue to be able to make new ones for more people to come. We are not only a restaurant, but a place people call home, and a place you are not a customer, but our friend. Thank you, and please don't forget us.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
And I think, Ms. Kelly, just to try to reassure you, I think at one of the recent meetings, it was almost unanimous up here that every single effort and measure will be taken to ensure that you are able to achieve what you just described. So whenever this comes to a conclusion, I do think that is going to be a critical piece.
I would concur that I don't think anybody thinks of downtown Boynton Beach without thinking of Hurricane Alley. So you're a staple.
Absolutely. It's been unanimous on this board, as I can recall. So we're in support of you, and we will do everything within our power to assist.
All right. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
Afternoon. Brian Fitzpatrick. I'm not sure if,
Into the, yeah.
as a lefty, I'm not sure if I should be up here now or,
Your item is on future agenda, so you're able to speak.
okay, terrific.
You're speaking to us, remember?
What's that?
To us.
That?
Yeah.
Oh, hello? Hear me fine? Good. Hi, Brian Fitzpatrick, 409 Northeast First Street. I wanted to chat with you. I had an idea and I called it an LOI and I submitted it. And I recognize it has several moving parts, no pun intended. In regards to 211 East Ocean Avenue, while some may question the CRA's purchase of 211 East Ocean in 2007, I want to thank your predecessors for their foresight. While some may question the CRA's current ownership of 211, I would respond, please keep the focus. Keep your eye on the prize. Land banking is a valuable CRA tool. And I also I want to thank the Barber and Davis families for their interest in 211 East Ocean as it's bringing this topic to the spotlight. Now, my LOI, which I've submitted to you, as I said, I realize it's kind of unusual in that what I'm suggesting is that you move the Magnuson House to a vacant lot that the CRA has on Northeast First Street. And it just so happens that I have two vacant lots adjacent to your vacant lot that somehow they would be transferred to the CRA. And I think this would allow the Barber and Davis families to build to have a beautiful facility because on Northeast First Street, they would have more than twice the square footage of what they would currently have at 211 East Ocean. 211 East Ocean, roughly speaking, don't quote me, but a little over 12,000 square feet. Whereas by combining the three lots on Northeast First Street, they would have over 24,000 square feet. And I think the possibilities are endless for them over there, given with that much square footage. I understand, the building department has some concerns about what's being proposed on this 12,000 square foot lot. I did reach out to Mr. Dagger. Am I pronouncing your last name? And he took time out of his busy schedule to come here tonight to show the unification that we have in our desire to build something beautiful on this block, which together, the three parcels is a little bit over an acre, And I want to dispute, there seems to be some misconception. I was reading over the notes from last month, but there's some misconception that we or me was not willing to entertain any discussions with the city to, you know, to sell the property or what have you. And I really don't recall there actually being a concerted effort by staff to address that issue. You know, I just want to dispel that notion that I'm not a willing participant. I certainly, it's my desire to be, you know, part of something much bigger than we currently have today, whether that involves me being in the picture or being out of the picture, you know, but I think the potential here is endless. And I'm just asking for your consideration, you know, once again, you know, I think if there's any questions that I can answer here, I certainly would love to entertain them.
Brian, I appreciate the new information. I believe the staff gave you information and an email response saying that the item will be discussed. Your LOI will be part of the package. You know, this is a very rough draft.
Certainly.
And the fact that you have the adjacent property owner with you here, having some sort of memorandum of understanding between you and the adjacent property owner to help solidify this board's decision is something we would most likely want to see. You know, seeing you here, it makes a difference, but also having something in writing. And that way we can make a better decision. Plus, you know, we do enjoy pictures. So, you know, how you showed us that rough draft of what, you know, is down in Delray that you're trying to help propose. If you can give us the background of the condos that you own on the north half of the block, the Mr. Daggert's property, and how the 211 East Ocean Avenue will fit into your design development plans, that is something we would like to see to consider your proposal. In addition, the issue of having the Magnuson House moved to a residential lot is that it's not necessarily meant for commercial uses on Northeast First Street without a variance or changing the land use or zoning. So that's going to be highly unlikely to be a commercial location in a residential neighborhood. So that's not saying that we can't save that Magnuson House by putting it there. Or there's the other place along Seacrest and Northeast 3rd is another location that might be able to host the Magnuson House in the meantime. But, you know, with what you're saying of not destroying the Magnuson House, we appreciate, because this board did not want to meet its demise. And so we'll hopefully get a little bit more information from you at the next meeting. And I would suggest we'd like to have the development at least 2 weeks before the CRA meeting. That way staff can make recommendations and analyze your proposal. Did I get everything, Twee?
Okay. But I mean, was there more beef to the proposal on 211 than I've currently seen? I mean, or is it?
So the paragraph that you gave us regarding your LOI, we would want to, it's an unsigned document that you don't even have your name at the bottom of. So we would kind of like a little bit more formality. If you could speak with a land planner or another business professional to help you draw up the LOI, I think this board would really appreciate that as well.
And as I said, I'm not adverse to not being a part of this project. If this is something, I'm a little puzzled, that I only found out about this LOI kind of after the fact, and I was puzzled as to why adjacent property owners weren't contacted to be like, it just would seem, I mean, this is part of what CRAs do, right? I mean, land banking. It makes perfect sense to acquire adjacent parcels for.
What I could tell you is that for an LOI, this commission considered discussing it. However, we did not, do we move forward with the posting?
You did direct board chair, we were directed also to post a 30-day notice.
Okay.
And that is your notice to the public.
And so that's, we were following all applicable Florida statutes regarding notifying with the posting on the property.
And that ends August 20th. And that's why we won't hear the item until September 14th.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
And so, Brian, I do want to say that even though we have an August 20th, you do have until the 2 weeks before the CRA meeting to give staff an ample time. So that would be, I would say August 31st would be a deadline for you to provide us with an updated LOI with a memorandum of understanding between you and the adjacent property owners. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in the audience? Is there anyone online that has their hand raised or is asking a question?
Board Chair Grant, this is John McNally. I do not see any questions posed or any hands raised.
All right, thank you. We will move on to CRA Advisory Board. Pending assignments, reports on pending assignments.
We had to cancel the last board meeting because there's only one item that needed to be discussed. And we thought that we could do it for the next board meeting.
Okay.
That'd be a more fruitful discussion for the board.
And are they also reviewing another 4 properties?
Yes, the next meeting, we should have some more available properties.
All right, thank you. And then I guess when we have the available properties, can we also notify the property owners that it will be in the discussion?
Yes, we could do that. Often some of those properties are available, do come to us. The owners or the representative do come to us, so we don't get it just from the realtors.
Okay. Excellent.
Website.
Moving forward to consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. CRA projects in progress. The first would be Rock the Plaza at 1 Boynton Road recap.
Hello again, Board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. On Saturday, July 17th, we held our Rock the Plaza event at the 1 Boyton Shopping Plaza. The free event featured live music from the band Spread the Dub, and it provided a spotlight of the businesses that operate out of the plaza. During the event, attendees were encouraged to stroll through the plaza and visit with the participating businesses, which included Bacciami, Sweetwater, Common Grounds Brew and Roastery, Tokyo Ramen, and Suwaki Fast. For each of those participating businesses, we had a special Boynton Beach Bucks offer, which was a $5 voucher that could be redeemed with any purchase. In total, we had 97 vouchers that were redeemed. During the event, we encouraged attendees to complete a short survey so that they could receive that Boynton Beach Bucks voucher. And through that survey, we learned that 75% of the attendees were Boynton Beach residents and 25% were not. And then following the event, we did a post-event survey with the businesses. And overall, the feedback was very positive. The businesses were very satisfied with the additional foot traffic that the event brought to the plaza. And we do have some photos here on the screen that showcase what it looked like. And that was a photo that showed the basically like an aerial kind of view of the activation. Any questions?
So we did appreciate the arm painting and the axe throwing. And so there, please also, it is a very kid-friendly event. my daughter had some fun playing with the bounce balls. And so are we notifying this to the schools and other,
Sorry.
yep. And so, and other type of family-friendly associations?
So schools just went back into session today, so we had not notified the schools, but typically we do notify the school, the local schools in Boynton Beach about our events. We did have posters at the Carolyn Sim Center as well as the Hester Center, and the city did share the event for us, and we have the rec track email listing as well included in the CRA database. So that's all of the families that are signed up with the recreation department. So we have targeted them as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'll move on to the Boynton Beach Night Market recap. On Saturday, July 31st, we had our very first event at the Centennial Park Amphitheater. It was absolutely fabulous. I can't say enough about the event. I just loved it. The event was held from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and it had a variety of vendors that exhibited. Altogether, we had 33 participating businesses that signed up to vend at the event. 18 of those were local Boynton Beach area businesses, Boynton Beach CRA area businesses. And I won't go through the full list because it is included in the summary report. This was a very family-friendly event as well. We had a lot of activities set up for kids of all ages. Board chair that you just mentioned, we had the axe throwing, we had a game trailer, we had henna tattoo, face painting. The comments that we received from participants was that having a family-friendly event that engaged the children encouraged parents to stay longer and to shop and spend with our local businesses. So that was great. We did have live music from the Valerie Tyson Band, as well as some roaming characters that came out once it got dark. And Bonnie, if you could just go to the next slide. And these are just some additional photos that we took during the event that our photographer took that just shows the space activated and everyone just having a good time. Any questions?
Just a comment, Mercedes, I really like the idea of you bringing in the vendors close by so the people who are waiting in line could actually see the event and hear music and participate rather than lining them up on Ocean Avenue. I think that was brilliant move on your part. And the number of people are just awesome. It just shows you that the residents are ready for activities, and this was well organized. And from what I hear, they just can't wait till the next one. So job well done.
Thank you very much.
So what was the CRA's cost for this event?
This event, it's a $30,000 event.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the board's and the public's knowledge and remembrance to you, this event was not originally part of the schedule, in last October, not knowing what was going to happen during the COVID. This was really a late decided event. I mean, I believe it was between the May and the June meetings. And she really just, I know there was staff that helped her and Stuart with standing ovations also, but she knocked it out of the park. And to have such really, to do an event at all with this short notice and to make it as exceptional as you did, just speaks to your ability as an event planner and as a manager, project manager. So thank you, because that wasn't easy under that short time frame. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Great. Thank you.
Good evening, board. Renee Roberts, the social media and communications specialist for the Boynton Beach CRA. Just so you know, this is a separate, it's the Marina Marketing and Social Media update. I just want to make that clear. Throughout the month of July, the Boynton Beach CRA social media platforms were utilized to promote local business offerings, provide updates about the Boynton Beach CRA initiatives, and promote the agency's business promotional events. Here you can see two examples of the variety of posts that were shared. These were, I can't see the screen that well. These were two of our local businesses.
If you'd like, you can go to the other podium to get a better view of the screen.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. So this was, can you hear me? Is this
Yes.
microphone on? This was an example of real rival charters. And then also, that is Common Grounds Coffee that we promoted in the month of July. Next slide, please. We also promoted the Boynton Beach CRA, yes, the RFP that was released. Next slide. This was promoting the Boynton Beach Night Market. And this was promoting Rock the Plaza. Our print advertising for this quarter page ad, it was published to promote the jet ski rental companies that are located within the Boynton Harbor Marina. And this was published in the Coastal Angler magazine. Are there any questions?
The only thing that I believe is next month is the Goliath grouper spawning. So have you reached out to the different dive boats?
Yes, so we are publishing print ads in both the Coastal Angler and the Coastal Star promoting the Goliath grouper and the diving charters for next month.
Thank you.
No problem.
And our last is the CRA Economic and Business Development Grant Program update.
Good evening, Board. Bonnie Nicklin, Grants and Project Manager. This is just your monthly recap. As of tonight's approvals, we have a remaining balance of $113,492 left for the remaining fiscal year. And you can also see the city business tax receipts that were issued to new businesses within the CRA area for the month of July. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, moving on to, yes.
I just want to make sure I fully understand this. Of that remaining funds, how many of those requests are we able to fulfill?
I have approximately 6 businesses who are pending, but whether they'll get their applications in time for the September board meeting, it just depends on the pace of their project. So I think I'll definitely have probably 3 of those businesses on the September agenda.
Okay, so they'll make it and
Yes.
we'll have enough funds for
We'll
that.
have,
And for the rest, just the next fiscal cycle then.
it would roll over most likely into the next fiscal year.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Old business, our first is the consideration discussion of fiscal year 2021-2022 project fund budget tabled from July. May I have a motion to remove from the table.
So moved.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And Vicky, if you need to see the screen, it's better to come at the other podium.
No, sir. I don't
Okay.
need it. Good evening, Board Chair, Vice Chair, Board members. Vicki Hill, CRA Finance Director. Before we were tabled last month, I was going through to tell how much money we had available. So we'll go back through that if that's okay with everyone.
Yes, please.
Okay. So from our tax increment revenue, we are up from last year by about 14.8%, which is 15.8 million. With the marina, and then we have a fund balance surplus. What we will be budgeting is 16.9 million. Our debt service is 2.1 million. Operating cost, 2.8 million. Then what we have for our DIFAs plus Town Square is approximately 4.6 million, which leaves us 6.2 million to allocate for the project fund. And one of the things that our exiting executive director is going to do is go over the project fund. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Vicki. For the second page and the page that's on the screen now is a representative of our project list, current project list, as well as proposed projects by staff. This would not include any projects that you may have in your mind or anything that we have missed that you wanted to explore for next year, starting with the allocation of the 6.22537 from the first page, which is the balance of unencumbered funds for projects. You'll see in the first column, as we've done in previous years, we've provided you with our estimated rollover or existing balances within project line items. For instance, the top line, which is the MLK corridor redevelopment projects, you have in there now currently 1.3 million to address projects within the corridor, whether that be a soon project or a future project. And so down the line, you have the next line shows the match that you obligated yourself with the contract to Centennial Management for the MLK corridor project of $625,750. That money was part of the agreement, and it's acting as the local match under the low-income housing tax credit funding award that they were able to secure. The next line is the Cottage District Workforce Housing Infill Redevelopment Project. That is the balance after we moved money into the for the acquisition of the property at 133 Northeast 4th Avenue, which is a property adjacent to our Cottage District project. I'll go to the green column next to explain that. You previously approved the $500,000 that is in the line item for the Palm Beach County Housing Authority acquisition in the event that we were able to do so during their auction. We have the Sarah Sims Amphitheater as the next line, and that you'll see there is no existing balance, and that's because that money, the $150,000 that you have obligated yourself to provide the city is in an ILA, is in a purchase order. So that is money that is not available for you to reallocate. The next line is the acquisition of the 508 East Boynton Beach Boulevard project. The next one down is Boynton Beach Boulevard project, which is the improvement from I-95 to the US 1 corridor, and so on. So now we move over to the green column, the center column, and this is the column where you are looking at your projected budget of $6.22537.8 million for this coming fiscal year, and you are able to allocate those funds in any way that you see fit to address the needs of the plan and the needs of the community based on the plan and existing projects that may need more funding. That's the easiest way to say that. So what we have provided as staff is a kind of a mock, if you will, or a draft allocation of those funds based on priorities that we see as staff based on direction we've had or projects that need additional funding. And I'm happy to go through, those with you. I would like to make sure that wherever there is no funding, let's say for an acquisition of the 217 North Seacrest Boulevard, which closes in January of 2023, that is a decision the board can make, as we have in the past, whether you begin to save money for that acquisition or you wait until next fiscal year and put the whole $1.4 million needed for the closing. So if you had, it's just to let you know that you have until the close, till January 23, so next fiscal year. Other than that, I think all the other items are pretty self-explanatory. The neighborhood officer program, our economic development grants, and so on. And again, if you'd like me to go through each of those individually, I can. special events. So I'm here for any help with your decision making on whether this looks good to you. It is important too that the middle line there, the yellow downtown district line, which is the potential discussed acquisition of the 511, 515, and 529 properties. The amount of money that was discussed at the last meeting was $3.6 million. You can see that you will have to arrange the budget quite differently if you intend to utilize these funds for that closing, which was also decided would be before the end of the calendar year. I'd also like to tell you that staff has sat with our representative at Truist Bank, and we are confident that the CRA, if you desired, could secure a very short-term 2, 3, or 5-year loan for irregardless of the lease or the property value. It's basically based on our increment revenue. So rather, I know there was some discussion at the last meeting with Mr. Oyer about casually it was thrown out about him holding paper and him holding the mortgage basically for the agency, which Twee and I would highly recommend against doing. So we went ahead and explored the opportunity of a financial institution joining with us, and the rates are, as you know, very low, and it would be, I think, better for us to stay separate on that. But again, that's why I didn't try to put 3.6 million in there. It would have been a big hit to the budget overall, and I do think that there's another method of acquisition now of financing. So again, I'm here for any questions you may have or suggestions on how to reallocate what we've given you in a draft.
So Tara, my question would be regarding legal. Is the CRA able to take short-term loans, or it's not a short-term loan if it's more than a year?
Yes.
But loans for 2, 3, or 5 years, is that within our purview as long as it's part of our comprehensive plan for our property acquisition?
Yes.
Okay, and then let's ask the board here, how do they feel about doing this with, as you mentioned, the rates are very favorable. I got one thumbs up. I got a head nod. I got a head nod. So what I would suggest is that reach out to the banking community within the CRA district first, as we do have numerous banks, and see which bank is willing to make us the best offer. Normally we need to get 3 offers, so let's try and get 3 offers of loans for what you stated of 2, 3, and 5 years, and so that this board hopefully can make a decision in September of which offer and method that we will use to help finance these acquisitions that we have, because I believe that the 3 main ones that are currently on the books totaling, what is that? A little bit, almost 5 million, or no, almost 6 million, of the 508 East Boynton Beach Boulevard, the 217 North Seacrest Boulevard, and 511, 515, and 529 East Ocean Avenue fit the description of the comprehensive plan of the CRA. And so I don't necessarily have any changes to this pending the discussion from next month. But if Mercedes needs us to approve the Pirate Fest budget, I'd be happy to do that today so you guys can move forward.
Vicki, is that something that we need to do, or are you using the fund projected as you have done in the past for events that are occurring outside of the fiscal year?
Yes, sir. Mercedes, in order for her to start the plan that she needs to plan, she needs to know that she has that budget for
Pirates Fest.
So, Tara, is it possible that we do the line item for the business promotion events assisted project at 7025, 760 and leave the rest of the budget? Or should we approve this budget and amend it as needed at next meeting?
I think that would probably be better. I would recommend approving it and then amending it at the next meeting. So it's not piecemeal and it's clear to staff what they're working with. And Vicky's nodding at me, so she likes that.
Great.
Okay, and that way property acquisition can be used in any way for the Boynton Beach, the 217 North Seacrest and the Ocean Avenue. Okay. So may I have a motion to approve?
Chair, just
Yes.
One question. A few minutes ago, we heard from Kim Kelly about business relocation support. I just wanted to ask staff, which of these project funds would relocation services come out of? I'm not sure what historically you've done. What does that look like?
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for TWE, but I would identify acquisition funding and kind of wrap that into the acquisition. I think it's safe we don't need to create a program or a category of relocation funding. I think that opens the door for more than you want to do and do it more piece by piece or opportunity by opportunity. So I think if you identify those at the time that you enter into the agreement with the Oyers in a way that the CRA can set aside those funds, I think that's the right way to go.
If the board recall, we did it with the CCC relocation as part of their purchase of that property to relocate. So that was a separately relocation fund.
All right, wrapped together.
May I have a motion to approve the budget?
Motion to approve. Second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Moving on to item 16B. MLK Junior Boulevard Corridor Commercial Redevelopment and Affordable Multifamily Rental Apartment Project Update.
Yes, good evening, Chair and Board. Please, Shot Assistant Director. So this item has been before you several times in the past couple of years. I would like to just do a quick recap. So we've entered a purchase and sale agreement with Centennial Management back in September 2019. They proceeded with all their work that is required under the development and under the entitlement process, as well as getting financing from the state. For the 9% tax credit, they were successful in getting it, a very competitive process. However, through the process and through the pandemic, there were some issues that had arisen, especially with the construction pricing. And now they're ready to start looking at buying out the contracting and subcontracting services. They have identified throughout the process that there was the money set aside, we all realized, for the commercial piece to serve the neighborhood. 8,200 square feet was as part of the development agreement. That amount and that use is not included in the state. The state cannot fund that portion. So the CRA and Centennial has agreed under a separate agreement that we will negotiate the price of the construction for the activation of that space. However, in the development proposal for the 125 rental units, there's also issues that came up with the construction overrun, according to Centennial. In July, mid-July, Centennial approached staff with some of the concerns for the project shortfall. Since then, we've been working with them on some of these items. We didn't really get a lot of the details until last week. And again, there's numbers that's been also been revised since there. I must say that we haven't had a chance to look at any of the numbers since the packet production. Ms. Elizabeth Rogue, her architect, Mr. Herbert, and also Mr. Louis Sweezy of Centennial are here to give a more brief presentation to take us to where it was since the last time the board has seen the project. The review, just in summary, what Centennial has indicated to staff and in your staff report under attachments 4 through 8, there's a $4.9 million shortfall due to the rising construction costs and unexpected infrastructure improvements that are required offsite, as well as some upgraded design feature for the project. Staff feels that it's a little lower than that because we have already set aside, as you've indicated, and as you have looked at in the previous budget discussion, 1.9 million has been allocated for commercial. Somewhere along the line, the Centennial also feels that there's approximately 3.1 million in shortfall, and Ms. Roque will be able to tell us more in detail. Under Section 20 of the Purchase and Development Agreement, that also sets aside what we could do in terms of funding the commercial component. Also, paragraph 19 of the Purchase and Development Agreement allows the board to fund additional funds, provided there are some justification and backup documents for that. So with that, as a result, there are a number of exhibits that's in the packet that Ms. Roque will be able to go into more detail. Staff does ask that the board allows staff and the city to sit down and vet these numbers out, because it does require some cost sharing of improvements that will benefit the area overall, because it will facilitate redevelopment all along the corridor. But there are some cost sharing that needs to be done by the developer as well, because those are impacts that will affect their project. So with that, I'll here for any questions, and I'll turn it over to the board to seek any details from the developer.
Chair, if I may, I would allow, since the members of Centennial are here, I'd allow for them to speak and just to hear them out to clarify what they're asking. But I would move to make a motion to table this item until our next CRA meeting to allow the city staff and CRA staff to review, especially since they were only given about a week's notice with these numbers. I want to give our CRA attorney as well an opportunity to review these things. So that's how I would like to move. But again, I would like to hear from the developer in order to give them the opportunity, since they're here in person.
All right, I'll ask the board to withhold a second. And I'll ask Centennial Management to provide us with an update. Were you able to give, yes, you were, because I see it on the screen, staff enough time to have a presentation? If you'd like to go to the other podium, which makes it easier to see this screen.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Doing well.
It's nice to see everyone in person.
And can you
Okay.
state your name and address and your company for the record?
Okay, my name is Elizabeth Roque. I'm with Centennial Management. The address is 7735 Northwest 146th Street in Miami Lakes, Florida. So let me just kind of get organized here. Okay. So just as an update, right now we are with permits, we are getting ready to have a closing on this community in mid-September. And this has been a very challenging time for all of us, as we all know. And we never anticipated having the cost overruns that we've had of $3 million. And what we're looking for, and I can explain as we can go through the process, but maybe first we'll just start with the actual design of MLK. You can see our initial building up on the screen. In there you see where we had very intricate details, looking for that really Floridian type of look. We had beautiful porches and huge windows and very, very decorative. So once we got that back from our initial, from the architect, and we started bidding this process out, we realized that the cost was just going to be astronomical. So we said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board with our architect and let's see where we can start value engineering this process now before we ever get into permitting.
So what we started doing is looking at our structural costs, our electrical, anything kind of where you couldn't really see the effects of how it was going to impact the aesthetics of the building. So we're still in the process of doing that, and we're continuing to try to bring these numbers down with that piece of it. On top of that, what we're doing is we've changed the building a little bit, as you can see, from the initial to where we're at in the progress. And we've changed, you know, Brian, I could really use your help on the architectural piece here. I think it looks fabulous anyway, but I think you could be a little more, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Brian Herbert, Gallo Herbert Architects, 1311 Newport Center Drive. Essentially, what we did was the initial concept was a very conceptual design that we had done 2-3 years ago. Coming through the actual construction document process, what we've done is we've sort of streamlined the building to make it as cost effective from a construction standpoint as possible. Not so many ins and outs on the building as far as vertically, but to keep the architecture of the building as unique and as aesthetically pleasing as possible, keeping most of the elements that were really important to that Floridian design, and especially along the frontages of Martin Luther King Boulevard, and anywhere the building is really seen by the public. Some of the changes that we made were really things that weren't very noticeable. For instance, the manufacture of the windows. We looked at to see what was the most economical windows that would still give us the look that we wanted, the energy efficiency that we wanted, the impact resistance we wanted, so forth. Railings, things like that. So essentially, we've tried to keep it as much like the original building as possible, but really just to look at it from a streamlining standpoint, as opposed to, you know, cutting out things that really make the building attractive.
So how do I make this go down to the next screen? Sideways? There it is. Okay. So after all of our, can you hear me? After all of our value engineering, this is what this building right now is, what is in the permitting stage. And what you can see here where we value engineered it, where we felt that it was not really going to make a huge impact, is we changed a lot of the windows. So if you go back to the other screen, you'll see on the balconies, you'll see 3 large windows versus 2. You'll see scoring that's not on the building. You'll see some of the elevations that have changed. But based on this and the one that was in progress, we have brought the cost down even more, which is bringing us to the $3 million where we are now.
Yes.
And I think this is still a beautiful building, and I don't think it's really hurting the integrity or the design intent, but we have been able to really chip away at the costs.
So you took away
Yes,
the balconies though?
Oh, the balconies are still there. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And the front porches are still there. It's all there. We've just scaled down on the size of the porch or the size of the windows on the balconies. Everything is still there. The shutters are still there. The thing that's costing the highest amount of cost that we're incurring is what you see the details of the roof, of the, what do you call those things?
There's a large mansard roof on the building. There's architectural brackets on the building, things of that nature. That's
Are those
sort of all that
structural or they're aesthetic?
The mansard roof is really aesthetic. It's just it's applied to the top of the building to give it that metal roof. It's a mansard. It's a concrete roof below it. Yeah, but and as far as the brackets, that's aesthetic. Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard of that type of roof. I'm not a.
It's parapet, but
Okay.
it does add massing, and it does vary the aesthetics a little more. So you're not going to see just a banding like you normally see, and then you have a flat roof. It's technically a flat roof, but it's
exactly what it would be.
Yes, with a false parapet on it that makes it look like a pitch roof. So it is a very quality, design. So this, you would not think it's an affordable tax credit So I'm, you know,
Okay.
I appreciate that they are putting the money where it needs to be, and plus
This
it's a
building would
durable,
look really ugly without that.
it's a durable material. So when you're looking at from a code, and Brian can tell you, it's more durable from a maintenance as well as from a structural point of view, rather than an asphalt.
And would this actually provide any sort of rain coverage for the balconies or no?
It does extend out pretty far to where it provides that rain cover.
So that we're not hopefully getting rain into the units.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And one other aspect that it does is it creates natural screening for light coming into the units, as well as screening the rooftop air conditioning units, so you don't see those. Yeah.
My point was the intent of the mansard roof. I don't know what the cost of the outriggers or the bracketing is, but again, it has absolutely no structural basis. It's all architectural and aesthetic. It changes the look clearly from more of a Key West or Caribbean roof line, where you see those outriggers on those style houses. By leaving them there, it really cements that type of a look. It's still, I don't know what the cost of those are, if that's something that.
I do have the preliminary numbers for all of that, and that goes across every one of the buildings, and we're at 1.273 on that.
With those?
For every building to have that look, right now we're at $1.2 million total. Yeah.
These are the things we want to go through with them, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and that's here in the packet. And so, you know, that's a big cost. The other cost, if we just want to break it down real quick, is because of COVID and because of the rents, our rents were decreased this year. So what happened is on our first mortgage, they came back to us and said, well, guess what, guys, because the rents are lowered, now we're going to lower your first mortgage. So our first mortgage went from 10.5 million to 9.5 million. So that's $1 million right there. So we've got 1.2 of just this beautiful roof. We've got a first mortgage that went down $1 million. And then one of the things that we have is we have the cost of materials. And cost of materials has gone up anywhere from 20% to 50%, depending on who you're talking to and what products you're looking at. And so I took our numbers from last year from Ocean Breeze, and that total number was about $3.1 million. And I added 30% to that, and I felt like I was being very conservative using that number. And that again gave us approximately $1 million in just material cost only as an increase based off of when we built last year to this year. So you see how we're coming up with the $3 million in our cost overrun. And I mean, that's really it for the 3 million. And then there's a line item in here that we were kind of a little blindsided by this, and we had a meeting with the utility department, and they're asking for some other things that need to be done on the street, in the roads. And some of those things are, in the beginning, we had agreed to about $100,000 to do these improvements, and they were the sanitary lines and the sewer lines, and removing asbestos, and grouting and abandoning existing 6-inch water lines and using 12-inch PVC. I'm just regurgitating this. I really don't know what I'm talking about. So then we have a meeting, and they come back to us and they said, well, there's a whole lot of other things we really want to do as far as improvements to the MLK corridor, which I think is fabulous, and let's do it if we can, but that's coming at a cost of $728,000. And we had no clue of what they kind of wanted to do there on the MLK corridor there. So that's something that I think we all need to talk about, figure out, is this something that can go in the budget? Are these the improvements that you all want along the whole street? And how do we make it happen? But that's separate from our original $3 million of our cost overrides here.
Board Member Katz?
What would the cost overrun be if the original design with the various accents would have been moved forward with?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
What happens if there was no value engineering?
Yeah. What would the difference between the money that you're saying you're short now be compared to how short you would have been if you maintained?
That's a very good question. I don't really have the answer to that. I can probably get it. But as soon as we started seeing a lot of the bids come in with these large windows and 10-foot ceilings and the way the building was being built, we were like, wow, this is just way too much. And we need to figure out a way to build this, keep the integrity, but scale it back. So I can get you those numbers, but I don't have them.
I'm just curious. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I don't want to make you, engage in an exercise that would be of no value if there wasn't.
I can certainly tell you that some of the value engineering that we did regarding our structural and going back and looking at, there's a lot of savings there. Would you like to speak to that, Lewis? Okay, here we go.
This is Lewis Sweezy, 7735 Northwest 146th Street, Miami Lakes, Florida. And a lot of the value engineering came down to venting the hallways. We came up with an alternative method to venting the hallways. Instead of having big vents in them, we put in central air conditioning systems in them that serves the same purpose. That was a $200,000 or $300,000 savings. We resituated, we redid the whole electrical component to it, and we moved and we put we stacked the electrical component, the electrical runs all on top of each other, and that was $100,000 or so savings. And we did some reductions to the aesthetics, very little, and we like to keep the beauty and the integrity to the neighborhood in place.
And I guess so I'll sharpen my comments that I guess I'm not as much concerned about the interior because I'm sure being a new building, whatever you've done in there to save costs isn't going to destroy the integrity of people's living experience. But I do, just me, aesthetically, the exterior, the sidewalk, the roadscape, I like the less stripped down version. So I don't know what costs associated with the exterior for aesthetics and for the streetscape.
Wait, did you say more stripped down or less stripped down?
I like the initial.
The initial. Oh, okay. Go back. There you go. Thank you.
And
wow.
And that's just me, based on observation that it had a more distinctive, character to it. Whereas, I mean, it makes sense as value engineering means less.
I think the biggest thing that you're noticing there, and some of those things we can put back in when it looks at scoring, but I think the biggest thing that you're seeing is there's a lot more windows there, and the windows are a lot larger. The
issue is that the value engineering slide is the one that is current, correct?
That the value engineering slide is the one that is in the city right now.
Because the progress one is somewhere in the middle, because it still has the 3 windows.
Correct.
Or the 3 sliders versus the 2 sliders.
Correct.
And so, I can.
I'm sorry, clarify that. You're saying what?
So initial progress and value engineering is what Centennial did, with value engineering being what's in front of our building department currently.
Yeah.
Which is on the screen. So if you can say what you liked in the initial or the progress that you would want in the value engineering, similar to the wider, I guess, openings and but for what I can see is that, the balconies are kind of what is an important feature that I feel that it needs to be put, as for the roof, I don't know of any other buildings around there that could see the roof, but I guess from the side, to cover it up, there has to be something there. So
I think it's more also the scoring, the treatment of the walls.
Right, which that can be put back on.
Yeah, that adds more details and features to that, in addition to what you've said, Chair.
I think also that it's, just right off the bat, I think in all of the pictures from the initial, you have things on the street level and colors that are jumping out that draw your eye away from whether they're scoring or not. You have bougainvillea or some type of colors on the streetscape. You've got flowers on this upper, this floor, this yellow. So it looks very inviting and it looks very attractive. And then from that image down, everything gets more structural in its image than decorative, right? The initial picture is the initial one. It's meant to look, you've got banners on the streetlights, everything looks kind of like, here's the thing. This is a great thing. Then from an architectural and a development standpoint, you kind of plucked all those colors off of the screen and began to look at the structure itself, the building itself, the angles, the stacking, where that all is. So when they represented it to you, if you will, they didn't stick the flowers and the foliage down on the street and the banners back in the image. They just gave you kind of the raw building itself.
They didn't put the people in the cars.
Right,
in
and
the value
to some degree,
engineering.
I think Board Member Katz is definitely on.
It automatically looks like it's a big picture difference. However, the main aspects of it, having the 3 sliders versus the 2 sliders, kind of not having the push out bay windows on the east side. I can see the difference there.
Even the 3 sliders with the scoring or without the scoring would look different, right? I mean, as far as the face of it.
And so I'm not necessarily so much concerned with the value engineering. I appreciate you finding these costs, reduction of costs to help move forward with the affordable housing. And so it was the Florida Financing Housing Corporation said that your rents have to be reduced, not.
Correct. We had nothing to do with that.
And so that's something where, I feel that the city should be able to help out with that. The main thing with the commercial aspect, that is the CRA's responsibility. It's that aspect of you are going to be collecting rent for those spaces, whether it's at a reduced rate or what have you. We did receive a lot of comments in regards to business ownership of their buildings or locations. And if I wanted to know if that's something that this board and Centennial will consider, kind of like a condo association with the commercial aspect that the CRA is paying for, so that it is possible for those business owners to own it. Not to say for all of them, because I believe the city wants to have at least a spot for the neighborhood officer program, but that's something that we'd want to see because it's kind of in the sense as the CRA is putting the money forward. If we could have that aspect of ownership, because otherwise, what is the deal in the future for the reduced commercial rents? But I'm going to let the board speak first. Yes.
Are you talking about the possibility of a tenant to own an individual bay within a collective building?
Yes.
I'd have to educate myself a lot more about the implications of that, just because it's more complex.
I would say it's more complex. And would anybody like to hear from Centennial regarding that proposal? So we'll hear from you, see what the possibilities are.
Louis Sweezy, Mayor, I think it has a great intent and it sounds good, but it would destroy the financing to it.
Okay.
And it make it almost virtually impossible to get done. But it sounds good.
Well, I guess then the question is that with the CRA spending the money for the commercial space, does the future CRAs have the ability for any sort of equity ownership, in the sense is that, we know where the commercial properties are not just paying, your expenses, they're paying the rent and other things like that. Normally in a triple net lease, they have to pay for your operating costs and the taxes plus the rent.
I don't mind working with the CRA on just making it, we're not really looking to make any money from the commercial space. We just really like to get our triple net out of it.
Okay.
So I don't mind working with the CRA on that. That was never our intent to make money from that.
Okay.
So,
So I guess part of the aspect, I think, once we get to look at some of the numbers, is to say that we are looking to finance some of our purchase acquisitions. This is something that we would probably want to have a discussion with some of the money that we're borrowing, because we know that there is a certain deadline associated with it. And so that's kind of my view to see how we can help you finance this project. I just wish we had a little bit more time for discussions. And so I'll leave it up to the rest, any of the board, if they have any questions or comments.
I have one more.
Yes, Vice Chair.
I noticed in the, now this number that's all the way over to the right of like in contingency fund. Looking at the budget where you have
Oh, there you go.
for example, let's take contingency fund. Usually most developers put aside 10% minimum and you have 4%. I'm just curious as to why nothing was put in the original numbers and you have 701,000, 152,000, et cetera. It seems to, if that was put in originally, wouldn't that cut down on the 1.9 million?
Excuse me. Vice Chair, could you tell us what page you're on? Trying to follow.
There are no page numbers on here, but
I'm sorry.
It's this one.
So from the package that we got,
Package that you gave to us?
It's, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. What I'm looking at.
Wells Landing, general development costs, et cetera.
It's the page right after the site plan, I think, right? The site plans before it?
Got it.
Correct.
Right after the
We got it, Vice Chair. Go ahead.
site plan.
So when you look at the original numbers that we put in when we went to Florida Housing and Finance and we were looking for our funding, and you look at the current numbers, if you look on the do you have a different slide? There should be another slide that actually breaks out a little bit differently, how the numbers keep going. Keep going. Oh, you know what? It might not have made it into this slide.
I think from a what you submitted and
Right.
what's different, it was a good slide.
Oh, really?
Presented very well. The first
Okay,
the
go
slide
ahead.
that was
You're
up.
just missing some numbers. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful.
Okay.
So when they put in these original numbers, there was a line item that was just called other for $1.9 million. And it wasn't broken out like it is now in our current numbers because they don't have, the form does not include all of those types of things. So when you look at the, what you were talking about, the contingency fund here where it says $701,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a soft cost contingency. In the original budget or the original numbers, there was 158,000 set aside for that was inside the 1.9 million. In your page, you should see that. If you don't look at what's on the screen, but go to the page.
So, yeah, no, I see here, the issue is that on the carryover agreement, this number, you have the $1,926,000.
Yes, and that's how we got the form. So when we did that originally, they don't give you the space to allocate for the building permits. They don't give you the space for the builder's risk insurance or the engineering fees or the green building or the impact fees. So when we started with doing our real numbers and allocating where they were supposed to be, that breaks out to the same 1.926. I have a typo at the bottom at 1916.
Okay.
So yeah, that is underneath DEV fee. What is that? Under financing costs, yeah, DEV fee. That's for $4,036,000.
Indicated fee, developer fee, yes.
So if you mind explaining to me, well, how does that developer fee go into the project?
State allocates a 16% developer fee for the total cost of the project minus the land acquisition.
I know, but how does that go into the project?
Usually it comes out at the very end of the project on the last equity installments.
So no, so is the 4 million being used to build the project?
Yeah, the 4 million is deferred and goes into the construction and development of the project.
Okay. So but it's not a construction cost or a general development cost, or it's part of,
It's a development cost in there.
and in the general,
Is that, I think what he's asking is that the fee paid to Centennial as the developer? It's not a cost that is being paid to other individuals, right? It is the developer fee
It goes to a subsidiary entity called RS Development that is owned by the same principal, yes.
Okay.
so the question that I have with that number is that how can we use some of that to help with the cost overruns? And so we don't need an answer today. But what I would suggest is that we have our city commission meeting next Tuesday, and that we have somewhat of a discussion with the utility department so that we can help figure out, the extra 700,000 that the utilities are asking for.
Because at the time of site plan approval, that's what we budgeted. And then just recently,
You're not the only developer that we're dealing this with. So, like I said, is that I know that you're saying mid-September is you're trying to close on everything. Hopefully we can get an answer in regards to a loan from a bank for either 2, 3, or 5 years. I would say that a TERFA agreement is something that I know I would be willing to discuss, especially because that helps with the costs for the CRA using the tax revenue to pay you back. Is anyone against the TERFA agreement? Okay, so that's another aspect. I don't think that we as a board are willing to make any decisions tonight. But what we'd like to do is direct staff to work with you to find out what we can do with the money that we have, knowing that there are some purchases that we need to do, and it's looking like we are going to borrow money. The TERFA, we can do as much as we can to make that the best project. And I think that that's kind of it, is that we can't give you an answer today, and hopefully we'll be able to give it to you in September.
Right. I mean, I completely agree that this is just kind of a fact-finding mission at this point, and we're just looking to figure out, how do we come up with all the funds to make sure with keeping the integrity of the building. But one of the things I want to address is on the commercial side with the allocated funds of the $1.9 million now. Is that something that is kind of solidified, and we know that that's going toward the cost of the construction on the retail commercial space, so that all we're talking about right now is the 3 million. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, well, let's get I think we approved that as part of the budget, the 1.9 million to go for the MLK quarter. Plus, I believe there's the extra match of the 600,000. Is that part of the package that you gave us?
The 625.
Yeah.
Which is that's in
It
there.
is, it shows up as a
I
credit.
see the grant CRA.
Mm.
And so that's kind of where we're at right now, is that yes, you do have the 1.9 million
Okay.
as part of the project, plus the 625 for the residential component. And that way, any additional funding, we can hopefully speak about it next month from the CRA, and anything regarding the utility department, we can speak at a city commission meeting.
All right, beautiful. And then in the interim, we'll continue to work on value engineering where it's not affecting the aesthetics of the building. And also, we're going to be talking with the utilities department and also with the impact fees.
All right.
Right.
We appreciate it. Do you know what date your next board meeting is?
September 14th.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
All right, perfect.
Touch to
All right,
arrange that
perfect. Thank
meeting.
you.
So I'll ask a second on the motion.
I'll
to ta-
second it.
All right, and seeing no further discussion. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving to item 16C, Cottage District Infill Housing Redevelopment Project Update of Discussion and Contract Negotiations with Azure Equities LLC.
Yes, Board Chair and board members. This is a continuation of the negotiation and report back to the board, what we've done for the past 4 months. Bonnie, can you please put up attachment number 7? So I want to do a quick recap of the project. The board issued a RFP back in back in August 2020. We went through a series of developers' proposals back in December 2020. The selected team of Mecca Farms, or the Cottage District Infill Housing Development team, had withdrawn, and also the first ranked team, Pulte Homes, and it was ranked by staff as well as the Cra board, also withdrew. This is the last remaining proposer that was ranked as a viable option. Azure Equity LLC. Mr. Frank Gottsmans is online virtually, or at least he's registered online. But in the beginning, if you would look, I don't know if you should have a printout, a larger printout at your base here. But also, if you look on the second page, Bonnie, if you could zoom in on attachment 7, you know, the RFP calls for experience, financial capabilities, as well as many other items that were requested in terms of the quality and how to address the Boynton Beach area median income to make it affordable, as well as to provide fee simple single family homes on the site as provided by the zoning and the city's land development regulations. Azure Equity, in the beginning, as it's been reviewed by staff, has very little single family home experience. They do development and other types of development, such as mixed uses, townhouses, and multifamily, but we do realize that there is a shortage of examples of completed projects for single family homes, much less workforce and affordable housing. We did get direction to work with them to improve their design to make sure that it's, you know, their financing structure, their ability to hire local contractors, as well as addressing the Boynton median income or area median income is feasible in the project. We can tell you that after working for the past 4 months with the developer, we have really not gotten anything more substantive to answer the questions of the board to make sure that this development is a quality design. It is affordable to the Boynton area median income residents, as well as there's a maintenance of affordability for the project, so that the investment that the public invests in this project will remain to be passed forward from the next purchaser, so that there's not the ability to flip the homes within a short amount of time. With that, staff sadly has to say that the investment doesn't work out for the CRA. We don't think that this isn't, it's really the right type of development proposal for this site, and that there isn't enough demonstrated capability and financial as well as supportive documents based on the past negotiation attempts, and that this is something really that is a risk that's not recommended by staff at this point. There are several options that we can go through for the board, one of which is to reissue the RFP again, because there has been some development interest, but because of the negotiation, the staff and the board's not able to entertain any more of those options. Also, there are options if the board chooses for us to explore if the CRA ourselves can do the project. With that, I will be here for questions, and if there's, you know, any other representative of Azure Equities, you may want to hear from them as well. So we
So I'm
so we
going to
would
reach
recommend.
out to Mr. Gottsman, to, you know, as we heard from staff, and Mr. Gottsman may have a different perception of the numbers and the items submitted, and give him that opportunity to speak. Mr. Gottsman, it says you're currently self-muted.
There you go. Sorry. Good evening.
So we can hear you. Please state your name and address, and please, and you may begin.
Frank Gottsman, Managing Partner, Azure Equity, 2875 Northeast 191st Street, Aventura, Florida. First of all, thank you for taking your time to discuss with me. We've been working for the past few months trying to move forward on this project. The guidelines that we have received was to really remain within the BMI and the price target that was required. Our original design had to be modified because city does not allow for the original design, because the townhomes cannot be on the outside street. They had to be on the inside street. Same thing with the houses. So we tried to work with the permit department and the zoning departments to make sure that we don't just propose something that we cannot do, but we come with a design and we come with a site plan that's already well ahead and well advanced. In terms of the cost, we're working already with the local people. As we did from the beginning, we did already a lot of value engineering to make sure that our costs are aligned. And again, the idea was to really make sure that the prices remain available within the income range that we're asked. We are a little surprised, I got to tell you, because we've responded to all the inquiries and all the financial requirements that were required from us. I'm not sure what else was required, or in terms of banking or financing or equity. We're more than capable and more than able to do this. It is true that in terms of single family, we haven't done as much as maybe some other people, but we're very familiar with development. We're doing very, very large developments all over the place. And the general contractor, the local partners that we're using around of construction, is very familiar with the area and with house buildings also, which we're already working with them in terms of making sure that what we're presenting, and when we go to building department, we don't have to completely change it and modify it. We believe that the development is more than viable. We'd like to maybe have a little more time and sit down, and I'm really surprised because this is not the response I was expecting today. But if there's more information that they are required from us, I mean, we have everything available. We haven't had the line of communication as open as we have liked. It's been difficult to reach the zoning department. I know there's been some changes to the CRA, but I mean, we're available, and I mean, a little bit to my dismay, apparently we haven't convinced everybody yet, but we're very confident that what we're proposing is more than viable. So with that being said, I mean, you have the decisions in your hand. If there's any questions, specific questions that I can answer, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
So, you know, the issue that I have is that, you know, it seems that our building department in the city kind of changed things up from the design, and we were not given an opportunity to say to you, this is what we would rather have, and that the city to change their codes to better fit the infill of this, because I'm not necessarily happy that we're going from 39 units to 34 units. And it's almost in the sense we're having duplexes instead of townhomes. And it's also, you know, based upon the new final draft of the site plan that we have up on the screen. You know, the different areas for the playground, it's not in that northeast corner as proposed.
If I may, it was suggested to us to move it from that area because apparently there's another playground a little more north of us, and that's causing more problem than actually helping. And it was recommended to us to move it inside, so it would be easier for us to manage and for the HOA to manage rather than living on the outside, unless the city and work with park and recreation departments to handle it. We've been trying to follow directions. This again, we're not happy with 35 instead of 39 because obviously the development costs have to be divided to fit less houses, so the prices increase a little bit. That's beside the overrun and the cost that have been increasing lately. Even though we're expecting that by the time we start construction, we should come to a more normal level, which is about a year and a half from now. But yes, I mean, we can only do what the planning and zoning departments allows us to do. This is not the original plan, but they were adamant that they didn't want the townhomes on the outside because they're not allowed to back out into those streets and would have to change all the city requirements. So we've been trying to comply with what, we've been told to do.
Yeah, and for me, it kind of doesn't make sense that you're trying to have a nice front yard instead of having the nice backyard. So, for me, I'd like to give you that extra month, and it's to the point where if there's something that you're not happy with what the city is saying, for us to see if there's a workaround with that. Because if you're saying the HOA owns the playground, that means the HOA can prohibit other people from the community from playing on that playground. And that's not something that it's not something that I'd like. Because if the HOA owns it, then the HOA is liable for the kids that are on it. They can put a fence, put a lock on it, and just give a key to the HOA. So that's the reason why I always wanted it in the northeast corner. The building department may have different views, but I'd like to hear from the board to see what their view is. I think that
Parks and Recs would not be happy with having to manage another park because there's already one a little more north, and that's actually a source of problems and people hanging out and so forth.
Mr. Gottsman, I live a block, I used to have a house a block away. So I'm pretty much more aware of what's going on in the community. The issue is that you don't have your kids cross Boynton Beach Boulevard or Seacrest because it's a dangerous thing if you're under 10 years old. And as I was walking my dog for years, I would just see kids along Northeast First Street. This is something that, as an elected official, I have a different view than staff. And so that's kind of where, you had an opportunity, you listened to what staff told you. However, we make the final decision up here on the board. And so we wish we could, I don't want to say that this is over, but I wanted to make sure that you are working with us to get the final design because it's our final approval, not staff's. Okay. And so I'm going to let the rest of the board to have their comments, and then you can answer them. So, Vice Chair.
Yeah, I don't feel very good about this whole thing. The community started off wanting single-family homes. And basically you saying that that's not your thing. We started off with several developers. They dropped out for whatever reasons, and we're down to you, which is either number 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. But I just, for the last 4 months, you have produced nothing. I just don't, I think we're going down a bad road here, and it's just not, in my opinion, not a good match. You're not happy about some things, we're not happy about some things, and that's not sitting well with me. I'm at the point where I would be in favor of just telling you thanks but no thanks and start off with a new RFP because this is not giving the people what they wanted. I had several meetings with the community. We started off talking about rentals, and they said, no, we want single family homes. And obviously that's not your forte. So I don't feel good about this. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. but your experience is not in that area. The finance has not been clear. You're not too keen on local hiring. It's just not setting well with me at all. So I'm ready to just say thanks, no thanks.
Chair,
Yes, Board Member Romulus.
thank you. I'm just going to have to disagree with some of the things I've heard from Vice Chair simply because I'm looking at this and staff can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I am trying to understand where staff is kind of getting some of their concerns, if they could address those more specifically. That way we can go through this line by line or item by item so that we can get to the bottom of this. Looking at the team that Azure Equities had put together, I see Urban Design Studios, which is made up of one of the other applicants that was in the earlier teams that we had selected. I see the Boynton Beach Faith-Based CDC, which has experience. I see Randolph Construction, which has experience in single-family homes. And I see L.C. Nelson and Associates, which has experience in helping to create local opportunities. So I am perplexed by staff's the definition of why they haven't seen what they're looking for and how we can get some clarity on that. I am under the impression that we have a team here that can do something, and I don't want to go back to an RFP and spend another 6 months looking for another team of development. And granted, remember that the other two teams that we selected had already dropped off. They willingly chose to drop off because they weren't willing to meet us at the price points that we wanted to go. And that being said, this was the only team willing to do that. And so where can we find a middle ground? Where can we make some things happen? I would agree with the chair that I'm not in agreement with some of the changes that staff has. It's from what I'm hearing, it seems like has, and I'm not saying CRA staff, I mean city staff, from a zoning and building perspective, has caused the developer to have to make. I'm not happy about those changes, and you know, I'm also perplexed that none of those changes came back to us either as a board for approval, because what I'm seeing proposed here is not what we originally agreed to. So these are all things that I'm just questioning in my mind. And for us to get to this point where it's 4 months later and site plan revisions have occurred without being brought back to the board, changes have been made, and then all of a sudden we're getting we move to not work with this developer. I'm very confused. So I would like to have a more detailed update of where we are and how we got here, and figure out how we can make some things work, because I don't see why we can't make some things work here. Those are my points. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yes, yes, board chair and board members. We are concerned really on the financing end. So if Bonnie, could you put up the latest submission was dated August 3rd. So we've had less than a week to look at that as well. In assisting us review this, our exec director has been working with Mr. Gottsman and his team, and we have also enlisted the help of the planning and zoning staff. The design, it's not a vital issue. There are some costs that needs to be looked at. However, the main concern is really his financing plan or their financing plan. For instance, the projected uses and sources, if you look at the table as provided on page 7, you have a packet also at the podium here. The land cost is approximately $2 million, including the 2 final purchase that we did. There should be a value assigned to that in the financial plan and resources. If you look at the construction cost, it is $6 million of construction cost, and the development cost is $1.7 million. When you add all those numbers, as vital as it is, it's $11 million. However, the land value is not accommodated in there because we're giving the land for free. Therefore, there should be a land cost that gets subtracted from each of these units. And as you can see in his proposal, Mr. Gottsman had indicated on page 4 the scheduled price for these homes doesn't really include any reduction in the land costs that he's receiving for free. So one of those, I'm not saying that this is a bad submission. I'm just saying after 4 months, it's really difficult for us to reasonably assess what is the cost benefit to the public and to the CRA. If you look at the price of the scheduled prices, home A through townhome B, when you add those up and multiply the cost based on the valuation of home A, there's 3 of them at the value of $240,000. When you add all the cost up, his actual sales revenue from these units is 10.936 million. And the difference between the sales cost and the difference between the financing cost for these is exactly the same amount as what we're contributing, which is $385,825. He's not making any money out of this. It really doesn't make sense to me. Also, when you look at the performance that he has, he's putting $1 million in equity. He's only getting $572,335,000 in profit. The numbers to me does not make sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't believe that we would be amenable to having some numbers that are not gonna jive. I understand there are some cost gaps, which we are willing to look at and consider, whether it's more aesthetics, whether it's less units, but it's got to make sense to us. And right now, it doesn't make sense. So we are willing, whatever the board would like for us to do, go back and ask for these numbers again. But we take it your direction.
Okay, so let me ask, these numbers and this analysis, it's been 4 months. When did we know or when did we see this?
August 3rd.
What? This new proposal, these numbers?
Yes.
Okay. And well, I'd like to hear from the developer what his thoughts are and where he's seeing his numbers and how they're making sense to him. That maybe he can explain it in some way that maybe we're not seeing. I'd like to at least give him that opportunity to do that.
Thank you. First of all, we responded to a request for those numbers by the CRA a few weeks before, and we tried to put it all together. We're working on a development agreement. There's still a lot of things for us to do in terms of design and commit our soft cost and make architects and engineers start finally working on the final product. That we obviously need some kind of an agreement with the city to make sure that we're not just spending our money without any real revenue or without any source. Chewy is correct when she's saying we did not calculate the land value of the cost, because as far as we're concerned, the whole idea is to try to keep these houses as low priced as possible. If I increase the value of the land and I put an extra $2 million and I divide it by the 35 houses, then you just have the prices there. I mean, I can always add that and say to everybody that we're giving an extra $35,000 or $40,000 discount. It is one way to do the accounting. What we've been trying to do is try to be realistic in terms of how we can get to the numbers that the Boynton Beach community wanted and the city wants in terms of the pricing, in terms of between 80 to 100% of BBM at HI, and how do we work backwards to make sure that we have the capacity to actually produce those houses. Yes, there are some things that we're confident that we can save on. There is also an opportunity for people to decide which houses they prefer in terms of which development. So in terms of the square footage, we might have more smaller houses, more bigger houses. You know, we estimate that a lot of the sales cost, we could be able to build our sales center and reduce that and then be able to pass more savings. It is possible that we have to be more clear. Our goal was at the end of the day to try to leave it to the lowest possible numbers for the price of the homes. And this is the most important thing that we've been discussing with the CRA, is to have a development agreement that doesn't put pressure on us in terms of the speed at which we have to build and sell those homes. Because if we have to build them right away and wait for people to buy them, the costs are going to be going up. The idea was that we're going to set it up, we're going to build a few houses, which is going to be sample houses. People are going to come, they're going to buy them, and then we're going to build them. This way, we don't have to immobilize so much capital, and we'll be able to streamline them, hopefully fast. But this is the development agreement that we've been working on. And I mean, I'm a little bit, on the wrong foot, I would say here, because for my understanding is that we were moving on this department and on the development agreement for us to accelerate on the other parts. But whatever question you may have, I mean, we can answer. If we need to increase and add $2 million to the land cost, at the end of the day, I cannot invent money. If I need to add $2 million in the beginning, I need to add $2 million at the end, and the price of the houses are going to go up. If I have to write it like this and then say that the city is giving $30,000 or $40,000 discount per home, we can do that too, but it's just coming for me at the same place. So, but I apologize. Maybe I didn't, we didn't put it correctly, or he hasn't been clear enough in the way that we wrote it down. But the land cost is definitely a big factor in making this project possible, and also the financing that was available by the CRA, because those funds are making those houses possible to be sold around that price.
Okay, well, thank you for your response. I would be in favor of allowing for another month to go by to allow for the city, or the CRA rather, to work with the developer to see if there's some numbers that can be worked out. Again, I think that's the last ditch effort that we can make to at least save this and see if there's something that can be salvaged from it. And if by next month, if we can't come to some agreeable terms or get something that is feasible with what the developer is proposing, then I would have no issues with, letting this go and going back to RFP if that's the decision that we choose to make, or if we choose to try to finance it or build it ourselves. But again, I would not like to see this just be thrown away. And sir, just to mention that, when our staff asks you for things, please provide them, because, this is where we are at this point where they're feeling that they're not confident in the ability to move forward with you. So whatever reason that is that you've given them that feeling, don't make me look bad by giving you a chance. So please make that happen.
I totally apologize, but it was my understanding that we're more concerned right now working with the attorney on finalizing the development agreement. This thing came to me a little bit more late, and I thought that we had submitted in the first proposal, but I definitely appreciate that, and will be more responsive and more attentive.
And if I may add, I do applaud him for trying to engage the local, our local, that was never a problem at all. It's just now that you have the expertise of Randolph Construction and the CDC, please engage them. You need to know what their cost is. You need to know what their overhead and costs will be for delivering the project. Use your resources. I don't know what level of engagement that is, but we would be open to that as well. And then before we could even look at meaningfully at the development agreement, we need to have these prices and these timelines. That's all we ask.
I appreciate that, but in terms of, I'm sorry, but I wanted to clarify that, because so which site plan are we going with? Because the original site plan we're told could not work and would have to be amended. And I really would hate to come to the city with a plan that obviously is going against it. I understand what the mayor is requesting me to do, but I want to be perfectly clear. I'm going to go back with my architects and my engineers and work on a site plan, but I definitely want to make sure that, and if we could show the original one that we had sent, which was different, but planning and zoning had told us that this would not be available because only single family home are allowed to back out on the side street, and those townhomes that we had planned originally are not allowed to back out into 4th and 5th Street. And that's the reason for the change.
Frank, we can work with you with coordinating a response from planning and zoning. This is an IPUD, so your lot sizes are flexible. From what I understand, it allows you to have urban, denser type of development layout. I do need to add that the RFP did succinctly say where the playground's going to be. It's going to be at the northeast corner, as discussed in several meetings with board. We will work with you in the planning and zoning to make sure the product that is going to be proposed to the board will work from a property development regulations. So
something I also want to add here, because this is a problem that we tend to have and we keep having with our planning and zoning and our building departments, where, you know, we have contracted or non-consistent planners and reviewers that are looking at things and they're saying one thing and the plans say another thing and the developer thinks it's one thing and then we wanted another thing and this is what happens. So I can't even fault the man at this point because I don't think it's his fault. I really do think that we have a lot of internal communication issues, and so this is where we are now. And so I put the onus on you guys, our CRA staff, to handhold him through this process, because if we want this development done and we want it done in a proper time, we can't let it get lost in the red tape of the government bureaucracy that happens in our planning and zoning departments at times, that causes for something that we originally thought was going to be one way to end up being something completely different. I don't think it was his choice to completely upend his design. I do believe that there is some fact to what he's telling us, that there were things that were told to him that maybe we didn't even approve. So there does need to be some type of handholding and support throughout this process to make sure that we actually get what we're looking for and he's not being given the runaround.
definitely, we agree.
Yeah,
Will
no,
help
I'm looking
facilitate.
at, the original site plan that is in front of the board. Shows that all the townhomes are on the outside and the single families are on the inside. And, you know, the staff is saying that you can just reverse that and put all of the townhomes on the inside and the single family homes on the outside. Because I do think this board wants to have that density of the greater units. And so we want you to build those townhomes as part of the interior of the project, not just the duplexes.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to see any reduction in the units. So if we can maintain the units the way they were originally proposed, which is 39, I believe, that's what I would prefer. And if we need to make any changes to allow for this or relaxations on our LERs or something like that to make that allowed, then that should be our prerogative.
And in addition, it's not staff's decision whether to, for the park on the northeast, you know, that was part of the requirement. So you can tell them that the CRA said that that's the requirement, and that they also said you're going to take it over. So
yeah, yeah, and I would, you know, make sure that we emphasize that this park is a neighborhood park. It will not be something that's just to the members of this HOA.
and similar, it's part of the agreements that the HOA will help fund this park, though. So I'll request a motion to table to next meeting.
Is that the direction that we needed to move in?
Yep, that's all you need to do.
Okay, so moved.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Frank, it's because we're not in the RFP, if you'd like to speak to us, I believe, you know, on the board, you're able to do that. Is that correct, Tara?
Selection has been made, so the cone of silence doesn't apply at this point.
So I would say, please don't wait until September to tell us if there's an issue. Let us know ASAP.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. We'll be back on the drawing boards and we'll have everything submitted very quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is the project update for the purchase of the properties located at 511, 515, and 529 East Ocean Avenue.
Yes, board chair and board members. We received direction from the board to commence development of purchasing the property located at the address stated previously by chair for the purchase price of $3.6 million. We have been diligently working with the property owner, Mr. Harvey Oyer, and his sister, Christiana Koviak. on obtaining as much of the content of the leases for the existing tenants as possible, so we can better advise you and work on the terms of the purchase and development agreement. We have been continually doing that, and I believe there are some issues that he would like to protect the tenants in terms of disclosure of some of the information. And I believe we have gotten to at least some forward movement that he's going to look to see if he can give us a redacted, terms of those leases, so we can better report to you and better define the terms with the attorney, the board legal counsel. We've scheduled another meeting on Friday to further discuss this some more, and we hope to at least bring back at least a draft agreement of some sort by the next board meeting. In the meantime, we're also seeking, as board directed us to do, some financing to purchase this, and we highly would recommend that the board look at that in terms of a straight sale versus something where the property owner holds a note.
And I'll ask for the lease, do we need more information than the time and the amount?
Yes, there's several reasons why we need more information, and
Any renewals?
the renewals, maintenance, and, to ensure that we do maintain the tenants and address relocation, we need to understand the terms that they're currently operating under. To the extent there's confidential information in there, it can certainly be redacted, but the general terms are important for us, because to bring back recommendations on how to protect the existing tenants, we really need to know what they're operating under and what they need. So the sellers understand that and have been as cooperative as they can. They have their own concerns about confidentiality, which we also understand. So I think we have come to the redacted leases will be a great way to provide the information. So I think we have a path forward that we'll be working on, which will allow us to move a lot more quickly and bring you back a purchase and sale agreement in time for us to close within the time frame that the board directed.
We did have a meeting today with the owner, and we have scheduled a meeting on Friday as a follow-up. So we are, actively trying to get as much information and pursue this as quickly as we can.
And also, I understand the board and the owner wants to close by the end of the year. That gives, some constraints, but we really do need to do our due diligence, and this is part of it.
And then I also, we heard from Ms. Kelly from Hurricane Alley in regards to that. And so that's kind of, the point is that it's, it's something that I guess the CRA board will have to decide of what to do after purchasing, whether to have any sort of agreements with the current tenants regarding relocation or longer term leases. Is that correct?
Sorry, I was just looking to who was going to answer, but yes.
So the current, I guess, owner is under instruction not to renew any leases or create new ones?
We haven't given that direction. We've discussed it, that as the CRA is in a different position than a private owner. And so leases are not, and rental income is not the end goal here for our acquisition of that. So we are not necessarily in a position, not knowing the obligations of the leases, to make recommendations about whether we want them to take on tenants or not. So that is part of the immediate discussion. But we have discussed ways to address that issue in the time being. If there's, in the purchase and development agreement, if there's some loss of income, we can address that in the purchase sale price or however we want to deal with it. So I think at this point it's on a hold in terms of all of that, but we haven't made any direction or given the owner any direction on that yet.
Well, for me, it would be one thing, I guess, hearing from the board and hearing from Ms. Kelly is that to keep Hurricane Alley as part of the project and the purchase, and whether the CRA creates that subsequent lease or that's included in the bargain when we buy it. That way the tenant has the option to accept what we're saying to be the new landlord, or
if I, as your attorney, I would recommend that we have a new lease. It can be under the same terms. I'm not recommending any changes necessarily, but I would prefer the lease be through us, just from a legal perspective, because we can make sure it includes all of the contingencies that we need to add as a government entity, which a private owner wouldn't need to. So that would be my recommendation, which is a functional, not a substantive change.
Okay. And so for me, it's something that, yeah, as the comments regarding Hurricane Alley being the business for 25 years, it's something that you're saying we could do over and above because we understand the nature, historic and local value of that establishment.
I think that maintaining that business in the CRA district is squarely within the CRA's powers and mission.
Thank you. So there's no further discussion.
I would, just for purposes of the record, if you are a motion to direct staff to investigate financing the project would be recommended.
Okay, so can I have a motion from the board to have staff finance the project along with additional funding if necessary for other acquisitions?
And to continue negotiations in terms of condition. So.
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Motion to remove from the table, item 16E, consideration of second amendment to contract with Lewis, Longman and Walker.
So move.
All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Tara, is there any major differences?
No, we do our best because you are a very important client to my firm. I do enjoy your staff. I have to say that I'll just take this moment to say we will dearly miss Mr. Simon. He has been an absolute pleasure to work with, but I will also say that I am very excited to continue with the staff that you have because it's a great, you are a great client and we enjoy you. So the changes are, we try to keep your costs as low as we can and not bring you increases annually. So this is we've gone 4 years. So we try to understand the business that you're in and what you're trying to do and serve you as best we can.
We may have a motion to approve.
So move.
Second. We're all itching to pay the lawyer.
Yeah. All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have a motion to remove from the table item 16F.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Consideration of the Economic Development Grant Program guidelines and applications for fiscal year 2021-2022.
Good evening, Board. Bonnie Nicklin, Grants and Project Manager. Tonight, we're seeking the Board's consideration of the fiscal year 21-22 Economic Development Grant applications. After reviewing the current commercial rent reimbursement grant program, staff is seeking just a couple clarifications. One on the eligibility of off-site cleaners and or laundromats. Currently, the business use is not classified as either eligible or ineligible for funding assistance. If the board wanted to consider this use as a tier 2 business, the business would be eligible for 50% of their monthly rent, base rent, up to a maximum of $12.50 a month, whichever is less. Secondly, due to the amount of priority projects previously discussed tonight, staff is seeking board direction on the eligibility of businesses to request an additional 6 months of rent reimbursement at the completion of their first 12 months of business. So if you remember this past year, the board added that approved recipients would have the opportunity to request an additional 6-month extension by submitting a presentation outlining how the first year of business went and making the total rent reimbursement period 18 months. At this time, staff would be in favor of limiting the program to the 12-month reimbursement period moving forward for the next fiscal year so we could help more businesses. And then at this time, we don't have any changes or clarifications recommended for the Commercial Property Improvement Grant Program. And I'm here to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
So currently I thought tier 3 was, laundry and dry cleaners were part of tier 3. Is that correct?
So we have tier 1, 2, and 3 on the property improvement grant. Under the rent grant, there's only 2 tiers, 1 and 2.
Okay. And so, and this is only for new laundromats that are coming in?
Yes, correct. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'll ask the board if they're in favor of expanding laundromats within the CRA district.
I do have a question. Are we saying laundromats like coin laundry, or are we saying like dry cleaning? Are we saying both?
Both. So right now, under the property improvement grant, they are listed as an eligible tier 3 business, but they're not listed as either under the rent program. So we wanted to
Clarify
find out.
for me, tier 3 means they get.
Tier 3 under property improvement, they get 50% of their property improvements reimbursed up to $15,000.
That's the only grant that they can apply for?
Correct. And
if
they're
we
not
move-
listed as either on the rent grant. So we just wanted to be able to add them to either a eligible or ineligible business.
But you lost me. What?
So we have 2 types of economic development grants, rent reimbursements and exterior, interior build outs. We included laundromats, liquor stores, pawn shops, convenience stores as part of a tier 3 exterior, interior build out to help improve the locations that we currently have. Having it as a rent reimbursement will incentivize more laundromats to come to our CRA.
I get it. I'm just asking for clarification. So right now they're allowed to get interior and exterior build out. So they're currently part of our program. They're getting that, but what we're asking to move them to up to tier 2 to allow them to get rent reimbursement now.
We're asking for board clarification because again, we don't have them listed as either or. For example, we have a new laundromat in the district who received the property improvement grant, but it's not stated in our current rent grant whether they'd be considered eligible or ineligible.
Got it. Just for my own clarity, for laundromats, what's the like external facade that we expect? Like, what's the standard that we expect them to have? Like, are they? Do you understand my question?
Well,
okay.
Yes, board member Romulus, the CRA is not the approving entity of the improvements that are being made to commercial property. So to answer your question, there is no standard, laundry facility exterior. If they were a laundromat that was opening in Flamingo Plaza or Ocean Plaza, then you would be limited, of course, on what they could do to the building because it's part of another plaza. But any of those improvements, interior or exterior, would be allowed under that grant. So there is no kind of, the question was, is there a standard exterior that we like to see? There is none. It is all based on the codes and regulations within the city exterior.
But at the end of the day, this is always towards new businesses that are opening in the district and improving or embellishing our current district.
Right, correct.
So then that being said, I would make a motion to approve for them to be a tier 2 business.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And then as for the rent reimbursements going back to 12 months only, motion on that?
So moved.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Is there anything else, Bonnie?
Do we need a motion for the property improvement grant for next year?
Yes.
One more motion.
I would do a general motion because I think they just
Did the changes.
So do a motion to adopt the guidelines with the changes you just approved.
Can I have a motion to approve the new economic development grant program guidelines with the changes previously mentioned?
So moved.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to discussion consideration of the interim executive director of the CRA.
Yes, Board Chair and board members, we were asked to bring back a formal item to this board meeting for discussion on the in consideration for making Ms. Shutt the interim executive director of the CRA. If that is, I have provided with you for you her resume as an attachment, as well as giving you in the cover a brief history of Thuy's experience and her employment here with the CRA. What would happen if you are in favor of making her the interim or a director? We would bring back a contract at a future meeting if you're considering that option, but in the immediate, a interim executive director status, I believe, needs to be approved.
So Tara, then Board Member Katz.
If you wanted to move forward with naming Ms. Shutt as interim director immediately, you could do so by articulating the terms and approving a motion in that direction with the terms. The motion could be as simple as pursuant to the terms, the same terms and conditions as contained in Mr. Simon's current contract, and then we can bring back the actual contract for approval at the next meeting. That is one way to effectuate that particular piece.
Board Member Katz.
Yeah, I was going to say that I would be in favor of option number one to name Thuy as interim director officially and indirect counsel to bring back contract agreement. And I don't object personally to what legal just advised. We've been fortunate enough, I guess, the three of us who have been up here for the past 5 years, that we haven't had to have a change in the city manager, and we've only had one change here, whereas you see in adjacent municipalities that sometimes that is the exact opposite and have multiple changes every other year, it seems like. But I have witnessed it at the school district, and I'm of the belief that when you have the talent in-house and sitting in line, that unless you have reason not to support that individual, that there is no reason to go outside. So I'm not in favor of a competitive search, because I think that it would simply be a waste of time, because Thuy is supremely qualified, and in her time here, at least, I've never heard a criticism. So I have little reason to doubt that there's any reason for me to hesitate. So I would be in favor of option one, including not that I'm familiar with every line of the executive director's current contract, but I think that Thuy's experience level, puts her in line with the same pay and benefits, and I don't see any need to go through reducing it or anything of that nature. So I would be in favor of extending that contract as recommended by legal, and with negotiations if there was anything they saw fit between the two parties.
Yeah, I would second that, and that Thuy is qualified to run the CRA, and that she would be able to earn as the appropriate CRA executive director does now, because she'll be doing both jobs for the next, until she finds a replacement for her current position.
I too would concur with that. Thuy brings a lot of experience to this board already, based on where she's been and what she's done. So I would be in favor of option one, to support her.
I don't have nothing more to add, except for I'm ready to make a motion.
I'm of the same boat. When some things are that obvious, there's not a need to say that much. So I'm ready to move forward.
All right. So I have a motion for for option one.
Motion to approve option one.
Second.
No further discussion. Oh, Thuy, you want to say something?
No, I just want to thank you, and I'm humbly just so appreciative. And I've had the best mentor, and I've had the best staff. They've accepted me and just have made my job as assistant director so wonderful. So they are my work family, My kids are grown and I'm able to, and I hope I don't disappoint you or the public. So thank you so much.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Well, that was easy. I just have one follow-up clarification. Is she to remain in her current position with the name of interim director under her current salary and pay until the next meeting, or move her immediately up, just for Vicky? I know she wants this, so move her immediately up to the contract terms that Mr. Simon is in the position of interim.
I believe we stated as the
Thank you.
position terms of full executive director.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Congrats, Twee. Oh, I'm the next item.
It's item 17A. I thought you wanted to say how great Twee was.
Yeah, right.
Persistent.
Consideration of award and contract for responses to the request for qualifications and proposals for the management of the Boynton Harbor Marina.
Yes, Teresa Utterback, Development Services Manager. So we currently have a contract with Waypoint. It is due to expire October 1st, 2021. We put out a request for qualifications and proposals on June 17th. Responses were due on July 20th. We received 3. They are listed. Waypoint Marine applied again, Oasis Marinas LLC put in a response, and Matthew Spain. We, as staff, we went through all of the responses and we gave you a sufficiency checklist on what was provided. I also did clarifications on their fee structures because one was not clear in their responding, in the response. So I also provided, I think just the board can see that right now. So the fee structures, kind of with the experience, had staff weighing in on Waypoint being our first choice, Oasis our second, and Matthew Spain the third. With that being said, there was, if we go with Waypoint on, based on their experience with us and several years at the marina running the tenants, the fuel dock and every other problem that comes across that marina, he has done an excellent job, and his cost annual fees were the least out of the 3.
So there's no further discussion. May I have a motion to approve the recommendation of the CRA staff?
Second.
And I know that I have some people from the tenants that if they'd like to make some comments, now would be the time.
Good evening. My name is Dan Volker, 421 South Lakeside Drive. Been involved in Palm Beach County dive tourism for over 20 years. The issue is, we believe the marina's been doing a wonderful job with the past management, but there's an issue with dive tourism in the Boynton Beach area for this marina. There's an arbitrary rule that prevents the dive charter operators from having more than 15 minutes for the safe unloading of dive tanks and gear. I don't need to remind the commission how important dive tourism can be for Boynton Beach in the future. The reality is the dive boats are not in anybody's way when they're moving tanks from the truck to the boats, but they need more like 45 minutes, not 15 minutes. And it's actually endangering the safety of the divers. It's creating a very bad feeling among the dive customers. These are extremely affluent people that are putting a lot of money into restaurants and hotels, and it's not appropriate to rush them out like they're second-class citizens. So I would request that the city do something to change this arbitrary rule to something far more reasonable, like a 45-minute period that this you could have the loading, nitrox checking, et cetera, and perhaps maybe even investigate that there is in fact no problem with traffic. It's not holding anything up. This is typically taking place in mornings, when there is nobody going in anywhere. No one's being no one's having their passage through the marina driveways or anything restricted in any way by this. It's just something that I don't think anybody ever thought about before, and this might be a good time to think about it.
Are you a tenant, sir? I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
Are you a tenant in the marina, did you say?
I'm with two of the tenants right now.
But you're not a tenant currently?
No.
Okay.
So he's speaking on behalf of,
Okay,
who are you?
no, I understand.
Down
I
divers.
just,
Tenants that you're speaking on behalf of?
Of splashdown divers.
You know, my experience when I was doing the lionfish tournament, we definitely did not stay there for less than 15 minutes. I do think we would need to do 30 minutes to be on the safer side, and then get a report hopefully next year to see what's going on, if there's additional time that's needed, because normally it's not a 45-minute wait period. It's a little bit easier to determine whether it's 30 minutes or an hour. And I think the 30 minutes is something that is this board okay with?
Chair, to clarify, is this our rule or is this a state rule?
this is something that is not arbitrary, nor has been introduced just in the last couple of weeks. This is something that has been ongoing now since the slips were renovated. And
This is our rule.
There's a complication of life there on the docks, if you will, with regard to ongoing issues that we could go into great detail with captains getting extra time and then leaving on their boat, and their car is there for 4 hours on the trip. We don't need to go there at this discussion. If you'd like to allow the dock master to extend that time of a deadline of a drop off and delivery, we can do that. I'm sure that the dock master would be more than willing to try that. But understand that the whole intent is not to rush affluent divers off of the dock while they're loading onto the boat. This is specifically geared toward the captains of these vessels and our tenants that for years and for months would fight the decision on moving their own vehicles out of the loading and unloading. So I can attest to the last 14 years of ownership that we do not get complaints on a regular basis from divers or from fishermen that Brian is running them off of the dock too quickly while they're loading. But we have had tremendous amount of ongoing effort to keep our tenants and in line with those things that we think are better for the public and better for the marina in general. You know, we also share those spaces with the restaurant and with a lot of other people that do complain for other reasons that the captains don't know about the calls we get from those other entities that are on the marina besides themselves. But I do think that if you'd like for Brian to explore that duration just to see how that works, we rely on his expertise to keep that marina moving and flowing. But I don't want the board to think for a second that any of this is just arbitrary or you know, something that he's making up along the way. So, thank you.
Mike, do you know if we collected any historical data on this?
We have done parking studies. I have sat in the previous building counting cars for weeks on end to justify the movement of the decisions that we make. And while I don't think that the historic data at this point is of value because we've redesigned the marina and we've redesigned the road and the retail building is gone, we have not had, I mean, this is the first issue of being brought to your attention as a board as an issue. So it's obviously not an ongoing one. And I'm sure that there's more to the story, as there always is down there, than just, again, Brian deciding to enforce something that is not well thought out. So I think that we've spoken. I know that the board chair has spoken to Brian. Brian's more than aware of how these things flow there. And I know that he's would be willing to explore that flexibility to see how that works. And if it doesn't, then he can report back as to why and what the abuses of that privilege loading and unloading were, so that you have full confidence that those decisions were made professionally and under the best practice of management.
Thank you. So for the audiences is that we're, from the directions of our CRA director, is that it's the signs are going to stay 15 minutes, correct?
You had expressed a desire to flex to a half an hour to unload and unload only. And once the unloading is done, then the vehicle is to move to a secured parking space while the vessel goes on its way to the charter or the dive or what have you. That's how it runs, so that nobody is leaving their car there during the trip or for prolonged periods of time, thereby inhibiting other. Remember, there's only 8 spots,
right?
And there's 18 vessels.
So that's kind of it. Is that I believe the signs currently say 15 minutes.
They do currently.
And so I guess this is something that we could discuss at the next meeting to make the signs 30 minutes.
I think it would be worth, especially with the expense of the signs, to allow Brian the flexibility of extending the 15 to the 30 as a courtesy and see how that goes. If there's just a ton of cars that are sitting there, you know.
So you basically get us a report over the next 30
I don't
days
think we
of
need to
anybody.
change. Otherwise, the half hour will then be an hour. So I don't think that you want to do that. I think you just let the dock master manage the situation with understanding you want a little flexibility to see how that goes.
Board Member Katz.
So that's all I'd request is at this time, because we don't, at least I don't have any firsthand knowledge or secondhand knowledge, even of any of this beyond some of the comments right here. And we don't run the marina. If he wants to issue, you know, a report or some sort of letter in writing to us to explain why he would be in favor or oppose this, or as you said, to entertain flexibility for a period of time and then report back. So just so we get, he's running the harbor, and I think his input is as critical as anything.
Brian is here if you'd like to ask any questions, since
I say something?
he is the manager. So
all right, if you'd like to say something.
My name is Dave Cullen. I actually own Splashdown Divers. First of all, the business has been there for 40 years. Nobody's ever complained about the parking before.
That's absolutely not true.
Excuse me. I happen to do the testing of the tanks in order to supply the individuals with the proper rate of gas, which is huge. We put them in life support equipment at the back of the truck. I cannot do it in 15 minutes. And I've gone to Brian and told Brian I can't do it in 15 minutes.
We stated that we're going to work and do a study of the next 30 days. And so we're going to see how much time you need and adjust accordingly.
I think it's fair also, Board, I have to say, since the gentleman has explained why he is there longer, he's actually conducting some other type of business from the back of the truck. It is not obviously divers that are being shooed off by our manager. So this is why these discussions need to occur, because it isn't about all of the diver boats and customers being rushed off in 15 minutes. If there's a business or let's say there's someone getting their propeller changed, they go to Brian, they get a pass. The mechanic has a little truck that sits there all day and works because he's gone to the manager. The manager knows how to operate the marina. So it's all taken care of there, just like you park a car at a condo. But if there is some unusual or added business need that needs to be adjusted for, then I think that is a request that the tenant should be making now that he knows on his additional work that he's doing, because he's supplying materials out of his car for his divers. And then Brian would make sure that that's a legitimate way to do it, that there's all the safety concerns are being met by having those types of, just like we don't let boats fill with the truck anymore from the road. They used to do that as well. We don't do that anymore. So I think that, again, allowing, giving Brian some direction and allowing him to work this out or to provide you additional information. But Brian's there, so I don't need to speak for Brian.
I can assure you that I'm not taking up anybody else's time. I'm there at 7:30 on a Sunday morning. There's no other vehicles there.
Thank you for your comment.
Excuse me?
So what we're going to do is we're going to let Brian speak. And
well, like I said, I've already brought this to Brian's attention, and Brian sent me a text that said that I got no additional. We're going
to hear from Brian now. Thank you.
Good evening, board. It's Brian Smith. With the parking, it's in the contract for 15 minutes. And it's my job to enforce that. So I would suggest that we try 30 minutes for the divers and the other boats, they might not need as much time. And maybe we could try 30 minutes because it's in the contract 15 and it's on the signs like we've said here.
Brian, you don't have to respond to anybody right now.
Okay, so it's on the signs and, that would be my suggestion for the next 30 days. We can try 30 minutes for the dive boat owners only.
Okay.
I'd be willing to try that.
And so that's kind of what we're going to see, and you'll let us know, give us a report to see how that's working, if they're taking 35 minutes or if they're going 25 minutes.
Yes, I think it should be a hard 30, and then I'll report back.
I appreciate
or send a report or whatever staff asks for.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
You need a motion to approve the
I think there was and the clerk can correct me, but I think there was a motion to approve the agreement and recommendation number 1 under board options and a second. I just don't recall after all that if there was a vote.
Votes.
Okay, that's what I'm glad I'm not going entirely crazy.
For all those in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, board.
Thank you for consideration.
Discussion and consideration of the request from the city for the CRA-owned parcels located northeast corner of Northeast 3rd Street and Northeast 9th Avenue.
Yes, board, this item is coming to you as a request from the city of Boynton Beach to request the transfer of the properties on the screen, the 2 properties. These were properties that 2 of which we purchased and 2 of which we obtained from a request from the city a number of years ago in an attempt, as you remember, to provide a relocation site for the community caring center. As you know, that project did not come to fruition, and we have these lots still there. We did, as you remember, some consideration of a road improvement on 3rd. We've provided additional 10 feet of right-of-way for future development, and the city, I believe, has need for the property under their ownership and ability to dispose of the property. So they're simply asking for us to transfer it back, and that item will be brought to you by the city manager.
Motion to approve.
Second. And does this, the extra sliver along Northeast 3rd Street, is that included?
It is in their request, and that may be for some type of open space or city playground or facility playground. I'm not exactly sure at this point what the final use of that.
I'm talking about the Northeast 3rd Street north of Northeast 9th Avenue.
Oh, not the one on Railroad. I'm sorry. They have not asked for the properties that make the road.
So the little triangle piece.
Oh, I don't know. I believe that's a Scrivener's error on the Palm Beach County Properties Appraiser, because they provided, Mrs. Patterson gave us that in a right-of-way. Why there's still a line showing that donation of land when the city owns it, I don't know. But that is not, the city now owns the full right-of-way going.
The city owns it, not
the city owns it. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make.
Sorry, yes, sir.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, that's it. John, can you provide us with a closing?
Yes, thank you, Board Chair Grant. As a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the CRA's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the CRA's website at www.boyntonbeachcra.com. This concludes today's meeting. On behalf of Board Chair Stephen Grant, all of our board members, the CRA Director, and CRA staff, thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Be safe and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Night, everyone.
Congratulations.